blessings. We thank you for this new year that you've given us. Help us to achieve the most we can this year. Always remember to give you the glory and praise for all of our accomplishments. For your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Weldon, please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
I'm here.
Ms. Albrecht. Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnell.
Here. Good evening. Good to see all of you here on this bright, shiny new year. A little cold weather, and we're getting off to a good start as it goes back to 70 degrees again. We appreciate it. It's sometimes people get the wrong impression about what's going on behind the scenes in the city. What you don't know is how hard your administrator, your council, your city workers, and your attorney do work sometime on issues. I just want to bring this to light. There's a lot of false rumors running around. The Farmdale development west of town has only asked the city for one thing. They asked us to provide water and sewer to their subdivision. That is a county PUD. It is outside the city, and we've been talking to those folks for quite some time. At this time, the only thing they're asking for is water and sewer service with the city. That's all they're asking for. And at this time, that's the only thing we're talking to them about, is water and sewer service. But we've had many, many hours of discussions with them, and they're sticking to their county PUD. They asked for a PUD from the county. They got it. It has provisions in that PUD that they're going to build under. That's fine with us. They're not inside of our city limits, and we do not have jurisdiction there. Otherwise, things are going well. A lot of things are doing well in progress. We're going to open the park. The grand opening of the park will be at the Gumbo Festival in February. The city docks looks like they're going to get finished end of February, early March. City Hall is going to get finished February, early April, I believe, depending on weather. But as you found out, the pad is in, and the walls will start going up late this week. Any other council members' comments, please?
No, just on the Farmdale, even though have been asked for water, we've not received that contract or yet, have we?
We have not. We have not come to an agreement. We do not have a service agreement for water sewer. We have not voted on it as a council. Citizens' comments, please. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Gentlemen, you've received the minutes of our previous meetings, and they are from 3 different meetings. Are there any corrections or alterations? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda, the minutes.
Make a motion we adopt.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Putnell.
Yes. Okay. Dewberry Preble Rish.
Good evening, Jeff Britton with Dewberry Preble Rish. The mayor already touched on all the projects we got going on right now. A little more detail. The park, Philip performed a final walkthrough today. They're done doing work out there, so we're just waiting on the grass to finally take hold, process the last payment, and it'll be ready for the Gumbo Festival. City Hall, progress is moving right along there. They've got the foundation poured. Alternate water supply project, we've engaged with the company Trinity that we were working with previously about 1.5 years ago to do the test wells. So they've got a little bit of knowledge in the area, so we're hoping to get them under contract so we can get out there once we get an agreement with St. Joe to go ahead and install some test wells. The canal, we've got the big issue of the failing seawall at the mouth of the canal that we need to address coming up. Does anybody have any questions on that? Did y'all read the email correspondence talking about Harder's proposed approach? Anything? Okay. Go ahead. They talk about what they think is the best approach there. The concrete seawall is falling into the canal. So they want to get in there with their large barge and crane, try to stand that back up to install the sheets to keep the canal as wide as possible. The biggest questions right now are how deep are those concrete sheets? I know we've had conversations, we might be able to just slip them right on out of there. We might have to push them back, they might break off. And then we don't know what's going to happen to the jetties when that wall breaks. So Harders has put together an approach that I think is pretty sound. I think it'll get us where we need to get to. It's just working with Adrian to make sure we have the funding for it and make sure you guys are on board. So.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's not inside of the contract we're on the canal working for right now. We've got about 85 more feet that we need to install because something failed since the planning took place years ago. Something else failed. We need to tie the steel wall into the riprap.
Correct.
That's what we're talking about.
Correct. If no one has any questions, that does it for my updates.
Okay, once we get through looking at all the financing part, we're going to make a decision, even if we have to have a special meeting, so that we can get on with that. I know while they got some equipment here, we need to do it. It's to save mobilization if we can. I do have a question, though. Is it absolutely necessary to bring the bigger barge in? Those concrete things may not weigh very much. Have they tried to pick them up at all?
I don't think that they've been comfortable approaching it with their current equipment, just because of what may happen if you lift a couple sections out of there, if all that sand comes out and undermines the jetties. That they haven't tried to do that yet. No, to answer your question.
So
Philip and I were bouncing around some ideas today or yesterday. He was asking about getting in there and maybe trying to jackhammer off the top portion of the slabs and seeing if we could buy ourselves some space that way without having to work deep under the sand.
Well, isn't the approach anyway to drive the sheath pile on the outside of the concrete wall before they remove it?
That is the current approach, but in doing so, that pushes the new wall another couple of feet into the canal from where we wanted to do it. From where it was originally planned, I think last February, since that wall was bowed out more, to be able to, because those sheet piles are about 16 inches deep. And so to be able to go in there with plenty of clearance, we'd have to move another 16, another foot and a quarter, foot and a third out there into the canal. So.
Okay, we'll see how that goes once we get settled up. Any other questions, sir, of that? Okay, Mr. Damon.
Dennis Damon with Summit Professional Services. Just like to give you an update status of the CDBG. Can you hear me? That's okay. CDBG grant that is currently going on in the city. Currently, we've completed 4 homes. We're working on 2 more. They should be done by the end of February. And tonight, we have, by the way, until the end of October of this year for the regular grant period to before it expires. So we still have another, 10 months? And if we needed, we could actually extend it for a year. But so the grant is happening, and the reason I'm here tonight is to first of all, there has been another applicant qualified, a Miss Audrey Geiger, and that is a Rustic Sands applicant. She does qualify, but as the mayor and I were talking, we are still missing one piece of paperwork, which is a title to her home. If she doesn't provide a title, then of course we won't move forward on her. So even though her application qualifies, she still has that piece of paperwork to get. And so I'm going to ask for her to be added to the applicant list. And if you're related to her, on this first page it talks about the relationships that might exist between the council and her father, father-in-law, stepfather, mother, mother-in-law, son, son-in-law. You can read them down there. At the end of the motion, at the time for motions, I'll ask if anyone by individual is related to Ms. Geiger. And if you are related to Ms. Geiger, of course, you can't vote to put her on the list. We also have an applicant, Ms. Wisner, who was already approved for the list, and we have gone out to bid for her home, and that home award was won by, or the low bid was U.S. Mobile Homes. In fact, we invited Clayton Homes, we invited, let's see, who else did we invite? We invited Clayton Homes, we invited Prestige Homes, we invited 3 mobile home dealers, and I apologize, I can't remember who the third one was, but we typically invite 2 manufacturers and 1 dealer, okay? Because the reason we do it that way is because manufacturers have dealers in different parts of the state, and so we may not know the local dealers that are around, but the manufacturers provide their dealers with the invitation. So in this case, U.S. Mobile Homes was the only bidder. Their bid was $55,988, and it was well within my estimate. My estimate was $56,000, and all I had to do was come in within 15% higher or low of my bid. It's pretty typical. Mobile homes are, you can pretty much accurately estimate what they're going to be. So they came in within the bid, so that was fine. And so I'm going to ask for an award on that so that we can move forward on that. And basically just I asked for a motion to adopt the updated bid. Any questions on the status of things or what I'm going to be asking the council to do tonight?
Guess not.
Okay. In the back of the sheet is some recommended actions, and we've actually kind of laid it out. First one, and these would be motions from you all, council members, to disclose business and familial relationships with Ms. Geiger. And on an individual basis, do any of you have a familial relationship with Ms. Geiger, related to her in any way?
No.
Okay. Then the second motion that I would ask for, and you would have to make this motion, would be to add her to the applicant list. And if you look at the third page of your packet, there's a yellow line. This is the applicant list, okay? And the gold lined one is Ms. Geiger. Again, she would be added to the bottom of the list. And although she's added, that does not mean she's being helped. It just means that her application met the qualifications. She still has one piece of information she has to give us. Okay.
Council have any questions about that? Chair will entertain a motion to adopt the attached applicant list dated 10 January 2017 for the city's fiscal 2014 Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes.
And the third recommended action would be to approve the bid to U.S. Mobile Homes for Ms. Wisner's home.
Okay, you see the bid of $55,988 for Ms. Carol Wisner. Chair will entertain a motion to award the bid for Ms. Wisner as recommended above.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion second. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes.
And just one final update. I spoke to another woman today who myself and your code enforcement officer have been working to try to help Miss Robin Retzlaff on Hatley. I spoke to her tonight, and she believes she qualifies. That would be a nice person to help. She could really use the help. So I've given her application, given her our phone numbers, told her, you know, if she needs help putting that together, we'd be happy to do that. So that would be a wonderful thing if we could help her. That would be the last applicant we could probably help. However, because Ms. Geiger has not submitted or given me her title, if there's someone who comes in prior to that, then we'd be happy to help that person. So if you know of anybody, please just, you know, give her my name and phone number, and I'll ask them to call Mel or Adrian, and we'd be happy to help them, to talk to them. So it's not, the program hasn't run out of funds yet. And I thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Okay, this time we're going to inject a public hearing on a commercial development application by Mr. Al Cathy. At this time, we will call this public hearing to order within the confines of this council meeting. There's some specific requirements for public hearings. First of all, does anybody at the table have any business or marital relationship to Mr. Cathy? Okay. All right, this time I'll take any public comment from any citizen who would like to comment on the project. Not everybody at once. Al, would you like to make any comment about the project?
I don't have anything to add other than what you have in front of you.
Okay. I only have one concern about the project, honestly, and I'll preface that before I say this. Your project's fine with me. Warehouses on commercial property, that's the right thing to do. It has no conflict with the comp plan or anything like that. A little bit concerned about the water coming off that property once it gets built. And I noticed in your application you don't have any documents to deal with stormwater. Could you address that? Yeah, I'm asking
You want me
you.
to address it, or you want the city administrator to address it?
No, I'd like you to address it because it's your application.
Well, it was my application, that is correct, but I went through the city to ensure that the stormwater was taken care of. And and they addressed that.
Okay.
There's a stormwater in place, so I don't have, this area is known as the Mexico Beach Shopping Center District. The stormwater that's in place, it was put in 02 or 03, was designed to cover this entire area, and that was borne out by the city.
How did you plan to get your stormwater from your property to that inlet?
Well, I won't get it to the inlet, I'll get it to the road.
So you plan just to let your stormwater run off on the ground and then run across the road to the inlet?
That's correct. Because there is no grading system on this particular street where they're like other throughout the system. So this collection box will act as that.
Okay, thank you. Any other person have any comment on the hearing part? We'll deal with this again in this, but the hearing part, so allow anybody that has any concern or any questions about the project to comment. This is considered a major commercial development by definition in our LDR. Okay, hearing no other, I'll close the hearing part of that, and we'll continue with the council meeting. Make sure this is in the right spot. There's something missing from the minutes. So we're going to go ahead and take up the entire thing about the development order. Like I said, I don't have any problem with your development, Albert, but your application you turned in is very much incomplete by the LDR. There's a lot of documents that's not included in your application that are required in the LDR. And I'll mention just a couple of them. Well, first of all, we do have jurisdiction, the council does have jurisdiction, and you have already had a planning and zoning hearing on this. You did provide an application, so all those things are done correctly. And completing a new facility does fall in this category, and we have to ensure that it conforms with the comprehensive plan and the LDR. I provided the concern of an adjacent landowner because we had some flooding problem in this building just a year ago, and it was after a heavy period of rain. The requirements of development order is under submittals, and specifically under site plan requirements and general plan requirements, diagrams and elevations must be sufficient detail and scale to depict all information necessary for a complete evaluation of the proposal. I didn't find enough of those there to do that. Existing conditions, the location of the existing property on right-of-way lines, both for and private public property, streets, railroads, buildings, transmission lines, sewers, bridges. I didn't find any architectural drawings that contained any of that information. All water courses, water bodies, floodplains, wetlands, and important material. I don't see that. There's no indication of the topography of the site. There's only a survey of the site. And also existing land uses around it. There's just a long list of small things that need to be included in your application to make it complete. The most significant thing, though, there's a state permit required for stormwater. And of course, that's not in here.
I'm just gonna sit and listen. I'm gonna stand here and listen to what, I'll wait till you're finished.
I'll go ahead, because we can simply sit down and make you a list of all these things, but there's a lot of things in here. Your parking plan, your ingress and egress, how you attach the streets. You ask for no water, but your LDR requires you to be hooked to city water.
It's a warehouse, it's not a house.
Well, I understand.
I don't have to have water.
You do have to have water by the LDR. It says
Well,
that your
let me
building
tell
has
you.
to be attached to it.
To the council and to the city administrator. I started this project in time for it, what I thought was ample time to be on the December agenda. But I was told the city was too busy, we couldn't get it on there. So I went to City Hall and extensively talked to the building department about my development order. I talked to Bo Creel, the building official. No one until tonight, after almost 6 weeks of waiting to get this, a simple lot inside a designated Mexico Beach shopping center development, stormwater, all of this, I have asked repeatedly. And it's odd to me that tonight is the first time that anyone has said to me, Mr. Cathy, what you've submitted here isn't sufficient. I don't understand if there was something wrong with what I submitted, why would I stand here tonight waiting on approval, having been through P&Z, having been assured that everything I needed was in this packet? And I'm being told tonight, no, you don't have it all. I'm due some answers to that. I have waited, I've delayed this project. This are metal buildings I can't order. And all I've got is a simple lot inside a general commercially zoned area. Some of the things you talked about have no bearing when you already are inside an area that has been designated as a commercial shopping district. I don't understand that.
Now, surely you understand what the LDR says.
Of course I do.
And you could have made an application just as easily by going down the same checklist I looked at.
Well, then why did the city, I don't need those things.
You do need these things.
Well, then why wasn't I told that? Why tonight, after this length of time, it says in the LDR that I will be contacted if there's anything, it states that in there, that the administrator will deal with the owner. I can't tell you the number of times that I've been up there. and the number of people that you would normally deal with, from the building official, all of that information was passed through, I was told, to the city administrator, which is the proper chain. I've received no phone call, I've received no information whatsoever from City Hall saying that what I have submitted is incorrect.
With your background with the city.
Sir, my background, I went through the same thing that Frank Smith would go through. My background has no bearing on what I submitted and what I've been told. None whatsoever. I should be Frank Smith off the street doing what everyone told me that I did, and I accomplished it. I have spoken, I have been told nothing until tonight that I didn't do it right. I mean, this is not the way you do business. If something's wrong, according to all that information, you don't think the city administrator would have said, hey, none of this stuff's in here, you better do something about it. Don't you think that? Don't some of you think that that's what would have happened? Not you tonight at this meeting, all of a sudden saying, whoa, man, we got 10 things here you hadn't done.
This is the first time that the council has considered your development order. You appended planning and zoning last week. I asked some questions about that planning and zoning meeting last week because they didn't do it right, and you know they didn't. I'm not picking you out.
I know what this is.
No, you don't. No, it ain't what you're saying. The LDR says you will comply with every requirement of the development order.
I'm going to repeat myself. For 6 weeks, I've tried to do this right. Can someone please answer the question, why is this being raised tonight? I do that. Could you, Mr. Administrator?
Talk to me about the project.
You're saying that you haven't been consulted about what I'm doing?
I'm not getting in your argument.
If you
Come on,
comply-
folks.
If you comply with the requirements of this, you'll get your DO.
Are you saying you don't have wait a minute.
you don't
You're
have
saying
a
that the city doesn't have a responsibility to a person trying to develop a piece of commercial property to communicate with them after what I've been through at City Hall to get this thing through?
I'm not exactly sure.
And
what
he
the
sits
question-
there and says, I haven't spoken to you. No, he hasn't.
The
But he's
requirement.
seen the development order, and I'm due just the respect of an owner inside this city trying to develop a piece of property that affects my business, and I've done everything under the sun that I've been asked to do. From the building department to the building official, told that it came through his office, they had discussed it at length, and this is what needs to, he even said that at the planning and zoning meeting.
Have you met the requirements of the LDR?
I've met the requirements that I was told to meet.
Have
A
met the
topo,
requirements
I
of
don't
the
need a
LDR?
topo of that lot.
You do need a topo. It says so right here. You do have to have it.
No, not
You
when
do.
not when it's part of the business development. I mean, we want to, I don't know, man, this is, well, how do I get a list now that I'm here to get approval after the P&Z went through and after what the city represented to the P&Z board, who said, this administrator said 0 to them as if it was incomplete, nothing, and now you're saying, oh, I've got questions about how they handled the meeting. Well, get a P&Z board then that knows how to, get somebody that can give them some leadership then, so they'll know what they're supposed to be doing. This is ridiculous.
When you comply with the LDR, we'd be happy to pass your DO. But we're going to vote tonight, probably, to deny it because you have an incomplete application.
Why am I learning that tonight? I'm asking that question.
Al, you know what this LDR says. For heaven's sake, you sat in this chair 10 years.
No, I don't know.
You don't know what the LDR says about a development.
I said I did. I'm asking you why I have not been told that this is part of it. Is it my place to do that after what I've been through? Is it my place to go to City Hall and say, now look, here's what y'all got to do your job? No, I don't. I'm a citizen. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a business owner. I'm simply trying to develop a piece of property to put some warehouses on that's inside a commercially zoned business district that meets, I mean, you would think I was building, I don't know what, you're making that much broader, and it's just ridiculous that I'm finding that out tonight. And he sits there and says, you haven't spoken to me about this. Come on.
Does any of the council member have any questions or
No
comments?
question, I'll make a comment. I don't have a particular problem with this setup, Al, and I do agree to a certain extent. I think if there is an issue, the one group that should have been in front of this was the Planning and Zoning Committee. It is correct that as far as the LDR, it's not there. I'm not pushing at all on that. I mean, all the documentation, I'm sorry. You've got a good project and everything. I think the one that's made the mistake, not particularly you at all. Yeah, you had the right, just like we all, and have responsibilities like we all, to look at LDRs or anything else. That aside, and we all don't necessarily do it, I know that too. But the group that should have was the Planning and Zoning. They should have gone through the checklist that's in the LDR, and if it wasn't there, found out. It's the first time I've heard about it. The mayor has a right to bring it up. I have looked at it. I noticed that it was in there. I wasn't sure how it would be addressed. But you're right. You should be treated just like Bill McLaughlin or anyone else in there, and I think the Planning and Zoning should have brought that up and worked with you and the city administrator so we wouldn't be here tonight like this. But it isn't complete. How I'm going to vote, I don't know, Al, at this time. I'm sorry, I don't.
Other comments?
I think I understand how Al feels. I went through something similar to this about 8 years ago when I had spent a little money with an architect and was out close to $2,000 and came to the meeting that night and it was turned down. And nobody told me prior to that why my request was turned down. And then they showed me the LDR and some more paperwork that I had not seen. And I just, hopefully Al hadn't spent a bunch of money already. But I think, I mean, I've got no problem with what he's trying to do, and he's doing it in the right place. But I just saw this today, and if it's in the LDR, and we're requesting everybody else to follow the LDR, even though I'll admit some of the things in the LDR are a little goofy, for want of a better word, but it's there.
And I understand how, you know, if I came to, I would need somebody to tell me what I need to do because I don't know all the rules. I would hope somebody would tell me before I get along in the project. Again, first I've seen of it too. You know, when you look at it, it doesn't look a whole lot different than the boat sitting over there now. If you just put a shed up to put things in, I don't see how it's going to change it, the use of the land that much.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about 6,000 feet of warehouse space. It is a major commercial development. There is a process for a DO. I have no problem with your development. It looks fine to me. But you didn't get the application completed. You can blame that on anybody you want to, but it's the checklist is in here. The reason I'm going through here tonight, it looks political, but I'm telling you it ain't. I've been dealing with development orders for the last 3 or 4 weeks, but the problem here is you can't depend on something that was done in 2002 on a water survey and building a drainage system when they have no idea you're going to build 6,000 square feet of commercial warehouse on it.
Could you answer that, please?
I can answer that myself.
Well, how about letting him answer what he said to the zoning board?
What we found out was that when this
what'd you call it, Mexico Beach Retail or Shopping Center or whatever it was, when that was done, there was a stormwater study done at that time. Over the years, it got out of the city's control. In other words, if we got it, we don't know where it is, that sort of thing. Preble Rich did the study for us, like I said, in 2002, but after 10 years, they purged their records, so they don't have a copy of it either. So Bo did call the engineer that worked on the plan, and the gentleman said that he does distinctly remember that the stormwater plan included, Mr. Cathy's lot in particular, and if you look at the ordinance that was passed in 2002 approving this shopping center, that does bear out. So the mere fact that it doesn't exist doesn't mean it didn't happen, and there probably was a DEP permit at the time because that was a major shopping center development back in 2002, but if there's a record of it, we don't have it. So that's where we stand.
My point is that it is obvious that the stormwater for the Mexico Beach Shopping Center district is supplied by what they put in. That's like obvious, just as Mr. Creel said. The parking is common parking because under the Mexico Beach Shopping Center district, that's how all of the parking is done in this area. We don't have designated places in front of our businesses. A warehouse complex doesn't have parking. It's just people pull up there and store their stuff, or we use it through the business.
But the requirement is that you got to give us records of how you're going to provide ingress and egress from that property. You got to have, you got to show us driveways. You got to show us the impact of those driveways. It's in here spelled out.
But it's a designated area. It's not. I mean, it's no. How do you mean you're going to get into it? Don't you? I mean, it shows on the picture where the warehouses are located. How else would you pull in there to get to it?
It's common sense. It's intuitive. But when you make this application and it's complete, we're going to have it on record from now on. And you can't depend on a stormwater study from 2002 that nobody seems to have a copy of. Just because I remember it and you remember it, don't make it so on this DO. You got to have a state permit for stormwater. That's in here too. That's out.
There's a stormwater in place, Mr. Mayor. I don't need one. I'm exempt from a state requirement because there is an existing stormwater plan.
By the state statute, you're exempt?
I'm exempt through the city. I would think I would hope the 4 of you or 5 of you would say, look, it's obvious that there's a stormwater plan in place that covers this lot. You heard what he just said. Why would I jump through a hoop unnecessarily so that to please who? It's here. What do you mean? You want me to in 02 as if somebody remembers or doesn't remember? We verified it.
The man said he remembered drawing it, but he doesn't have a copy to give us.
Oh, man.
That's not good enough.
Of course it's not. Well, I'm going to leave. How do I get a copy? Who can supply me a checklist of what I got to have?
I'd be happy to bring it over myself if you like. We'll discuss.
No, I'd rather get it through City Hall.
You got it right there.
Merrill, do you know if someone else would have records of that stormwater plan, state or anyone that you could potentially approach for?
Well, we didn't go to the trouble of calling the state.
What?
Okay, I'm just asking, Al.
But if you're sitting here with me, time's money, folks.
Yeah,
I've got things to do. I'm gonna jump through something. What if I say, well, I can't find a copy of it? So then you're not willing to walk out, just walk this area in the streets, look at the grates in the ground. Preble Rich, Bo Creel's already called them. You got to be kidding me what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing tonight. And you can say you can blame who you want. You damn right I should be able to do that. If there was an issue and me walk up here tonight expecting what I heard, you better believe I should have somebody to blame.
Chair will entertain a motion about the development order application.
It's another business. It's further down. The action.
I had to move it up.
Okay.
Your motion is either to accept, approve, disapprove, approve with conditions, disapprove with conditions.
Could we approve with conditions that he meets the LDR requirements?
You can.
I mean, I don't think anybody here is objecting to what he wants to do.
I'm not objecting to his project, but Alcathi has to meet the same exact requirements that every developer in Mexico Beach has to meet.
I don't think he thinks so.
Well, apparently he doesn't think he has to, but he knows daggone well what the LDR says. He sat in his chair for 10 years.
Well, regardless, I think this is somewhat similar to the application for the home that was just brought up where the individual hadn't been able to approach yet with the deed that they have. I have no problem proving it as long as he can, come up and meet the conditions of the LDR.
Like I said from the start, I don't have a problem with his project. But I do have a
I-
real problem, but he may have a problem with the state. The
I think-
LDR requires a state permit for stormwater management.
I'm not too sure, but I
And-
think there
and
is
the
a
state
problem.
statute.
I understand that, Tom. I think there is a little problem here for the city because evidently there is a stormwater project that was done, our program was put together by Purple Rich, and somehow or another we have lost that paperwork. That's a little bit of responsibility on us, so I'm not sure.
It could be, but at the same time, his 6,000 feet of warehouse space wasn't considered during that study.
Not the space itself, but I believe what I understood, if I heard back and forth a lot, was I'm not arguing whether it is approving it or not. I think if it's lost, I wouldn't mind seeing Mel, as I would ask for any other citizen at this point. If that has anything to do with it, if there's a place we could look or talk to someone at the state level that could possibly provide us a copy with it, I think if nothing else for our own records, as stormwater study, we should have a copy for ourselves.
Okay,
I would like to-
that's outside of what we're talking about.
Well,
right
that's
now.
involved, I believe, in the requirements of the LDR. That's all I'm bringing that up to.
Okay.
I do, again, whether it's me or anyone else, we all have to make sure that Sarah would also ask that Mel make sure when things go in front of the P&Z, if it is something like this that requires documentation per the LDR, that be so noted and told to them and that's taken care of. I think that was an issue that indeed in this case, and for any other citizen, that they should have been notified at that point.
While we're on the subject, for a year, I didn't have a P&Z.
I know.
And I'm very disappointed right now that I had to go through the same checklist they should have to go through. At this point, at this time, we should have accepted or rejected a recommendation by planning and zoning. It was only when I found out they had not even done this that I knew I had to. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept it based upon the fact that the documentation required by LDR is provided.
It's provided?
Is provided. I'm sorry, my breath
Yeah.
softened out at that point.
You heard his motion. Is there a second or a different motion?
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments from the floor? Comments from any other staff? Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay. It's conditional upon meeting every requirement of the LDR. All right, moving along. Nothing like a little excitement in January.
Gotta start the year off right. huh?
Happy New Year. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment that's somewhat related to that.
Is it relevant to what we just did?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. You know it's after the fact, right? You know your comment is after the fact.
In a way, but in a way not.
Lisa Logan, 402 Maryland. In view of what just went on, and this is not the first time that the city has managed to not have documents, does the city have any plans to put any kind of system in place so that starting now and in the future, that these types of plans will be obtained from Preble Rish and kept so that this does not come up again? If Preble Rish dispenses with all of these plans for the city every 10 years, then why hasn't the city put something in place so that they can get those plans or have duplicates made so that these questions don't come up? So the question is the city planning to do something about this so this doesn't happen again?
I know the answer. We developed and approved a city records management plan about a year ago. And we are in the process of now finishing that up, getting all records that we have cataloged, scanned in, everything will be digital, we can go back and find things.
And that does include all plans from Preble Rish on all these projects?
It includes what we have. We have what we have. We didn't throw anything away. Whatever was left for this administration, that's what we're putting in the system.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Is the second reading of an ordinance, number 660. It's about food trailers. Motion to read ordinance 660 by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Please read 660 by title only.
Ordinance 660, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach amending the land development regulations to prohibit food trailers, providing definitions and exemptions, grandfathering existing food trailers, repealing ordinances in conflict to the extent of that conflict, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
This is the food trailer ordinance. Is there any conversation about this from the table? Is there any conversation about this from the floor? This is our prohibition on additional food trailers in Mexico Beach. Please call the roll.
I make a
I'm
motion.
I'd
that we
second.
accept.
We got the motion in a second. You didn't hear us. Go ahead.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the resolution, and we're going to read this in its entirety. This resolution has to do with the vote that's coming up next month on a special referendum on February the 21st, where the citizens of Mexico Beach are going to vote and decide whether or not we will have a leave no trace ordinance approved or disapproved by the citizens. Please read this resolution in its entirety.
All right. Let's get this. Resolution 2017-01, whereas Article 6 of the Charter of the City of Mexico Beach provides a process for citizen initiatives to change city laws. And whereas a group of qualified voters, the Petition Committee, prepared a petition including a proposed ordinance, the initiative ordinance, for the city to enact a leave no trace ordinance for its beaches. And whereas the petition has been signed by qualified voters of the city, equal in number to at least 25% of the total number of qualified voters registered to vote at the last regular city election. And whereas the city clerk has completed a certificate as to the sufficiency of the petition and signatures, and whereas the City Council declined to adopt the initiative ordinance within 60 days after determining the petition sufficient, and whereas the Charter now requires submission of the proposed law to the voters, and whereas the City has consulted the Petition Committee and the Bay County Supervisor of Elections Office regarding suitable ballot language to summarize the initiative ordinance, and whereas all parties were agreeable to the ballot language provided by this resolution, and whereas the complete initiative ordinance is available for public inspection. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City of Mexico Beach, the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach requests the Bay County Supervisor of Elections to place the following question in materially the same form on the ballot for Mexico Beach voters during this next regularly scheduled election, which is not correct. It's on the 21st of February.
No, it's a regularly scheduled.
Yeah. Shall the City of Mexico Beach adopt the following law? An ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, prohibiting obstructions in personal property left on the public beaches of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. daily, and to be commonly referred to as the City of Mexico Beach Leave No Trace Ordinance. For said policies to amend, be codified and become part of the City of Mexico Beach Land Development Regulations, providing for severability and modifications that may arise from consideration at public hearing and effective immediately upon its passage. Yes or no? Resolved this 10th day of January 2017 by the City Council of the City of Mexico Beach.
Okay, conversation from the table.
The only thing to just, again, I think pardon me, I feel halfway across the room. The question kind of came up was scheduled elections. We have already scheduled that election, have we not?
Right.
Yeah.
Therefore, as it mentioned scheduled election, it is talking about the one that has already been scheduled, not the normal March elections and so forth.
All right, well, yeah. It's the scheduled meeting on the 21st.
On the 21st of February.
Comments from the floor? Yes, ma'am.
Is this going to be like a regular election from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am. And this is the only thing on the elected ballot. The regular election is held in April. Okay, motion to adopt this resolution.
So make the motion, we adopt it.
Second. Second. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
I don't think we have a choice, yes.
And Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, again, there's only one question on the ballot, folks. The committee that brought this petition, had a recommended ordinance. That ordinance stands as is, and we're going to vote to adopt it or not. If it's adopted, it will become effective immediately as written. If it is voted down, it will not be adopted. And we'll continue with our Keep It Neat campaign. So again, that's next month. Everybody make your own decision, and whatever the people decide is what the council will do. Other business, planning and zoning action, Mel.
Items discussed at the P&Z meeting last week, in addition to the ones we've already discussed this evening, is the Corey Pud North. Mr. Corey was in attendance at the P&Z meeting to update the plan and zoning folks as to what he is thinking. In other words, all the discussion about his plan unit development has been at the city council level, not the P&Z level. So were pretty much in the dark about what was going on. So we did include in the packet the resolution that the city council had passed, which indicated that the next step for the Corey group is to work on getting the future land use map changed to the comprehensive plan amendment way, and also get the zoning map changed to reflect what they want to do. There was some discussion mainly on his part about, does he want to go ahead and pursue the PUD as is, or just go for mixed-use zoning? He did say that if he goes for the PUD, he is somewhat limited in scope with the map that has been provided previously. You want to make minor amendments and changes to that, so that might tie the hands of a future developer. So then he said maybe mixed use is the way to go. That might give the new developer the proper zoning to do what he or she may want to do. But he pretty much left it at that. So the ball is in his court now to make the decision whether to go through with the PUD or go for the mixed use type zoning.
Okay, is there any comments from the table about the Corey PUD specifically? Is there any comments from the floor about that PUD? We're talking about the PUD on the north side of town, 88 acres. That's been in question for quite some time, 17 years. 18 years. You don't know what mixed-use zoning is? Tourist mixed use? It's actually a very flexible type of zoning, and we have one concept that's on the books now that's using that. It allows for a mixture of residential, tourist residential, commercial, tourist commercial. There's all kind of different things all rolled into one basket there. Sooner or later, even if you got to put, it would still have to get designated one thing or another. And personally, I think that might be a good way to go to try to get this whole tract just rezoned from low density, which it is now, to commercial, to some sort of mixed use in the future.
Also, we talked about public engagement. There were some good suggestions made on, how to better approach the public. One in particular was, if you look at our website, it might be difficult to find who to contact at City Hall. You folks have your contact information under Mayor and Council section. If you go to the administrator page, it's got my number there, but you have to hunt and find that sort of thing. So most websites have a section called Contact Us or something, so that was a suggestion we'll work on and get changed. So things like that were very well brought up. One last thing that wasn't talked about at the meeting last week, but we have to deal with, is that the appointments for plan and zoning have to be done in January. It's according to the LDR. We have post 1 through 5. The even number posts are done in even number years. This is not an even numbered year. This is an odd numbered year, so posts 1, 3, and 5 need to be reappointed. These are for 2-year terms, so every year in January we'll have to reappoint people. So I would recommend that the current people in post 1, 3, and 5 be reappointed. Post number 1 is Dan Coakley. Post number 3 is Jack Kerrigan. Post number 5 is Denise Kidder. Also keep in mind our 2 alternates, which is Mr. Driver and Mrs. Wilker. They get appointed in the even number years with the even numbered folks, so we don't have to consider them. They were appointed not in January, but they filled unexpired terms, so they'll be good till next January.
I have a question. Only from when I was on, when I came up again for appointment, like anyone else that was new, I still had to send something in for the council to say, hey, I'm willing to do it again for another year. Do we not ask that from them currently, or has that changed? I'm just curious.
No.
Okay.
If they've already signed on, then we keep them as long as they wish to serve.
And they have said they want to serve?
They have not, but they belong to us.
Okay.
Please, our next meeting, which will be 2 weeks from now, we will have a little special meeting at the front of that to take care of that action.
That's all that I have for P&Z, Your Honor.
Okay. The next item on the list is actually sewer allocation of schedule for a vote tonight. We've been talking about sewer allocation now for about 20 months. This past week, our city attorney, Mel, and I were at a meeting with the county, and we came to final terms on our sewer allocation. For those who don't know, it bears repeating. There are 3 triggers. When do we have to buy more allocation from sewer? The triggers are you exceed 80% for the year. We did that last year and this year, or the last 2 years we did that. You exceed any 3 months of the year. We did that in 13, 15, and 16. And the rolling average exceeding 3 periods in a year. We were 4 periods over 2016. So obviously we've reached our maximum. We're using sewer at 87% of our allocation, and we have negotiated 150,000 gallons additional sewer capacity that the council will vote on. But as all things do come, the county had not got it for their commission on time to vote first. So we're going to have to wait for them to vote in February, and then we'll put that on our agenda to vote. What does that mean to us as a city? It means that we'll have, give or take, 700 more homes that we can service with sewer.
So whether it be Farmdale or Mr. Corey's property or any other development, specifically the 540 acres that are in our PUD concept we've got approved right next to town, we'll have plenty of sewer to take care of them. It took us 17 years to go past our original allocation, and this should take us anywhere from, I'm guessing, 7 to 9 years based on the average growth we've had over the last few years. Worst case scenario, we don't get anybody else to sign up to sewer, so we don't share the debt with anybody else. I doubt very seriously that'll happen. We've increased over 100 units in the last 2 years, and I suspect we'll have some continued growth in that area. But our sewer fund, between now and October, what might happen? Absolutely nothing. Our sewer fund is healthy enough to absorb the increase for some time, and that'll give us some breathing room to see what other developments and what other customers we might bring on the system. And we'll have to look at that in the fall. We're even looking at the concept of changing labor allocations or anything else to try and to keep our sewer and water and sanitation bills from going up any from where they're at right now. They've gone up a couple of times lately. We're certainly going to try to keep that in check. But this is very good news. It took a long time for the county to come to their decision, and all of our concerns were met. So we'll be bringing that before the council next month for a final approval, more than likely to be effective around the 1st of March. We'll have all the sewer that we need. For example, the 2 that we put on hold over from Gulf County, we're going from worrying about it to y'all come. We'll have plenty to share for a while. Department reports. Chief Pro Tem.
Mexico Beach Police Department for the month of December has, I know on the screen, I don't know if it shows how many arrests or not, but during the beginning of the year, the FCIC and NCIC, which is the Criminal Information Centers, they do a purge, and that tends to mess with the systems around in the states. But on there it says 0 after they finish their purge. We ended up actually having 5 arrests. We had an initial call of an armed and dangerous person, ended up being somebody hitting their medical bracelet. Drunk pedestrians, 6 vehicle accidents, an abandoned vehicle, 5 reckless drivers as called in by the public, 6 suspicious incidents, 3 vehicles, 3 people, 4 informational reports, monitored the school bus every single time that it came into the city with no issues, 2 burglaries, 1 out of a vehicle, had a domestic disturbance, and it was just a verbal. Everything was quieted down, no further calls. 2 fire calls, 4 alarms, disregard 6 alarms, 2 business, 2 panic, and 2 residents. 2 trespass warnings issued, a couple of civil calls, 3 animal complaints, which were, I think, a bear and a couple of dog issues. And the initial thing on here was 9 sick injured calls. That's off a little bit thanks to those updates. It's actually 20 medicals, of which 3 were due to vehicle accidents. We did have one of the medicals that we responded to was a life-threatening issue. We did a park, if you were watching the news, where they did the homicide involving an infant. We spent about 10 hours helping to recover the remains of that infant. We did 3,410 building checks, 11 public service calls, 1 disabled vehicle, 54 traffic stops, recovered some property, 3 welfare checks, and 3 follow-ups on reports. Those follow-ups did conclude an arrest for theft and fraud. So the chief wanted me to pass on that monthly training still being conducted. Myself, he, and Officer Haversberg did attend an 8-hour block of training that's centered on trauma response to any kind of information, any kind of incident, mostly sexual assaults and higher crimes. And then, of course, Officer House continues to do the Fire 1 training over with Parker. I am still getting calls about the fraud issues that are going around town with Duke Energy. Somebody calling opposes Duke Energy. Keep sending them in. I know people are still paying them, as Gulf County is telling me. So, other than that, that's all I have, sir.
One question. I got an unofficial report that the large boar bear was caught over on the east side of town. Do you have that report?
I haven't been told, but I haven't. FWC hasn't called me yet this week.
Okay. Put a call into them and ask them if they, in fact, removed a very large boar. I got that unofficially from somebody who said they knew it to be a fact. I don't know that.
I know one got hit up by Overstreet Saturday. I don't know if that's the same thing.
I know that big male bear has been causing us a lot of problems. He's been around a lot until all of a sudden he quit showing up, and now the female's back.
I'll give him a call, see what I can find out.
Okay, appreciate it. Do we have anybody from Public Works tonight?
Mr. Hall was sick and had to go home, so he will not be here this evening. He did miss Mr. Stengel, though.
Good.
Real quick, as Captain Wells already covered, we had 20 medicals, 5 fires. We did not have training last month due to the holidays. A lot of people were out of town, just never worked out. Philip, myself, Officer House, approximately halfway done with the fire class. Probably another 3 months and we'll have that completed. Other than that, if there's any questions, I have nothing further.
Question? Okay. Mel?
I've got a couple things. Number one, we hold quarterly employee luncheons, and December was the month of which we had our last employee luncheon. During the time, we recognized people's birthdays in that month and the 2 months ensuing, so we went through birthdays for December, January, and February. We also tell everybody whose hire dates are in those 3 months as well. We had 2 that were significant this time. In February, we will have someone celebrating a 10-year anniversary with the city. That is Mr. Hall. Also, the big one, we have an employee who, in about a week, will celebrate their 30th anniversary, and that is Kevin Martin. And keep in mind, his wife, Sherry Martin, later this year will have 34 years in. So without question, there's 64 years of experience just between 2 employees, and they've been around the block a time or 2. But one of the main reasons we have the employee luncheon, of course, is to recognize one of our employees for the Employee of the Quarter award. This particular award for the quarter went to Stephen Daniel House, police officer. He's one of the newer police officers, but he had taken upon himself to do a lot of the investigations for some of our cases on his own time. Didn't charge the department or the city for that at all. And so when you have an employee that takes it upon themselves to take their job that seriously on their own time, we felt that was worthy of note. So he did get the additional paid day off and the $100, so that was good. Other item I've got is the grant you've been hearing about. Most every year, Preble Rish applies for different grants for the city, a lot of which do with beach renourishment, inlet funding, things of that sort. We were turned down originally for this particular one, but the Department of Environmental Protection informed us that funds have been identified and reallocated to this particular project. This particular project is for beach renourishment. The total project amount is $621,000. The state share will be $465,750 with a local match of $155,250. What we have left to do, should the board wish us to pursue this, is that we have to get the scope of work written and taken into the state for their approval. Upon that approval, they will do the grant agreement with the city. We've been talking with the CDC about this particular grant, and they said they will help financially in some form or fashion, but at this point, there is no particular promise of a dollar amount. So that is yet to be determined. The CDC has also gone to the trouble of spending money on a feasibility study for the beaches. Back in 2008, the city did their own feasibility study, but the CDC wanted an updated version. So once we get that in March, or when the CDC gets that in March, we'll look at that with anticipation as to what those things might have in there. But your next question will be, how do we get the sand to renourish the areas that need it, in particular around the El Governor area? This particular grant would be one that the sand would be loaded onto dump trucks. It would be trucked to those locations and then spread out by some sort of equipment right there. And we have to make sure that for permitting purposes, we keep the sand that we transport out of the water itself. We just put it on the beach and let Mother Nature take it from there and spread it out where it needs to go.
I'd like to make a comment about this grant. This is a very important one. We actually applied for it, I guess, about 2 years ago. We were having a lot of trouble keeping the sand off the west side of the jetty out of the canal. We were having dredge problems and all that. This is actually going to allow us to excavate the sand off the west side of the jetty on the land, put it in a truck and carry it, started to about, I think we asked for about 29th Street. So you folks that have been living there where the beach has been eroding away for some time, that's where we're going to get the sand. And this will be an ongoing project as we go along. Nature does a good job of giving us lots and lots of sand to move off the west side of the canal. And I don't know how many truckloads it's going to end up being, but this is a really good project. We're not exactly sure how the dollars are going to work out. The scope of work, of course, though, Pebble Rich is going to help us with that. Actually, Elizabeth, that used to be with us, wrote this grant. She does a very good job for that. So I'm actually excited about it. It's the first beach renourishment project we've had in some time. And we've always had the sand to use. It's nice, good white beach sand. So I'm looking forward to this project.
And also give a heads up about what we will be speaking about at our workshop in a couple of weeks. Number one, we'll be talking about the fee resolution that Adrian's been working on. We'll also talk about a couple of the contracts that will be taken up for discussion as time goes on. This one in particular will be the EPCI contract. And I think I remember I don't know if it's the attorney contract this time or not, but I've got a, the attorney is 3 years, but there's another one. The engineer contract. Gotcha. All righty. And also we need to get some sort of council input whether to proceed with any moratoriums on medical marijuana. We need to also bring up the LED lighting again. So we'll bring those up again for discussion.
Did this meet Mr. Adrian?
I moved it to the last because he's got all the money.
All right. I've got a lot more than usual today. In your packet is the report for November. I want to just point out a few key things. Year-to-date actual shows us with a negative balance. This again is due to the grant funds with reimbursement. The second reimbursement for the canal project is pending, and the third one I just sent over today, so that hasn't been submitted yet, but will be. And the total of the money that we're waiting for just on the canal project for reimbursement is $1,524,000. So that'll bring us significantly out of the red and help us out there. Other than that, the year's going well. So if you look at the second page of that report, it says general fund operating negative $1,110,000. When that $1.5 million comes back, as well as some MBA array funding and other grants out there, that's going to go significantly up. We have made it through. I don't see any reason to transfer money to cover the grants. We'll be okay. It'll cash flow itself. With the grant that Elle just announced, that will bring our total grant funds currently being run through the city at $7,021,048.28. in the past 15 months, with $1,985,263 spent awaiting reimbursement. Other than that, on the financial part, that's all I have. But I have some clerk stuff too.
Okay, Grant.
All right. The leave no trace ordinance election is on the 21st. I need to notify everyone in the public that if they distribute any type of signage, mailers, anything at all, they must register as a PAC with the state of Florida and our office. If there's anyone making signs either way, I need them registered with Supervisor of Elections Office and myself with a financial report where the funds are coming from. Also, I encourage all staff and council, if you are asked anything, emailed anything, don't respond, don't say anything, as we are not allowed to give an opinion in any way, shape, or form. And if you call me with questions, I will simply tell you the date and send you a copy of the ordinance, and that is what you're going to get from the office. So any questions on the election process?
Yes. By chance, if people who are not registered to vote need to vote, do you by chance know what date, the last date they could register would be?
It's someday next week. I had it, let's see if I have it pulled up still. I pulled it up earlier. The qualifying date for our special. I do not have it, but I know it's before the 21st. I'm going to guess by next Friday. But I would do it as soon as you can.
For those citizens that are listening, I would ask if they want to vote and they're not registered, please hurry up and get down there and do it, or you may not be able to vote.
And further on elections, filing for council seats is still open, and qualifying is February 6th through February 10th. And the registration date, if you want to vote in that election, is March 20th, with the election date April 18th. I think I'm done.
Okay, are there any announcements from the table? Are there any announcements from the floor? Gee, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.